All right, Joey Page, you've got your shot against arguably the best standard player in the world with a brew that no one's ever seen before. He's going to start things off with a Frontier Bivouac to start round number 7. Brad with a Sylvan Caryatid. Page will draw. Nick Miller did sit down with Joey Page in the sideboard, so if you're looking for a deck tech about this deck, you'll have one later today. So there is a little bit of gain life action.
Also keep in mind, let's imagine you're in Brad's seat here. You're 5-1, you're called to the feature match area to play on camera. Not too surprising, but you don't necessarily know your opponent. And you see this start and you have to think, maybe it's really my opponent that this match is about, not me.
You think Brad would think that?
Yeah.
Come on. Hero's Downfall is going to take care of that Corsair Crucifix. The top card of Joey Page's deck is a Teamer Sabertooth, by the way. Here's a Thoughtseize. We get to see Joey's hand now. 2 copies of Violana Blossoms. A Genesis Hydra. A Karametra's Acolyte, along with a Nykthos and a Wooded Foothills.
A pretty stable hand. I mean, 2 Eidolons is very nice in this kind of hand. Because Brad's not really up to anything, so draw some cards and hopefully find your combo pieces.
See what Brad wants to take here with Thoughtseize. He's going to go with the Eidolon. It's very, this is a very obvious statement. It's very clear Brad has no idea what he's playing against yet.
Well, I mean, you had to assume it's some sort of combo deck when you see Katamara's Acolyte. I mean, that's not happening for no reason. Nykthos as well. Maybe you don't know exactly what the end of it all is, but...
I think it's safe to assume big mana deck.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to assume combo. Like, if I was playing in Brad's seed, it would be weird, I guess. But I guess, I don't know what I would think when I see the Karametra's Acolyte. I would definitely think that you're up to no good.
Yeah.
That's my first inclination.
Well, once Frontier Siege is in the format, it's like, why on earth would my opponent be playing with this card?
Sure. Especially when I have Frontier Siege in my deck.
Right. I know he could just do this instead. It works right away. It doesn't need the second devotion.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. There's a Wooded Foothills. Here's an Eidolon. Time to draw a card. Joey will pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson's still having some mana issues, so he'll just deploy 2 Elvish Mystics and pass the turn back. Pate will draw. On the surface, it kind of just looks like a Genesis Hydra deck, even though we know that's not true. Couple Eidolon triggers. Joey, red zone. Brad not going to block. No land, wow. Surprising.
Brad gonna try to figure this out for the first time. Not easy to do.
There's Frontier Siege. Does select cons. We'll pass the turn back over to Page. Page will draw. And there's Teamer Ascendancy. Oh, enchantment.
Combos abound.
Yeah, missed that. I like that, actually. There's a land. We've got some devotion to work with here. Page going to go with Yavimaico, sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. Get a forest out of his deck. Making Joe Lissette proud with his white bordered forest.
Brad here shuffling his hand about, just hoping he's not dead, because this kind of feels like he might be dead.
If he died from this board, I think it would be kind of awesome. Okay, well here's 5 green mana.
Katamara's Acolyte gets him there. And remember, all of his creatures have haste now, so he makes a lot of mana.
That's true. Five green from Nykthos.
Also, when your opponent breaks out the mana die, also historically a bad sign.
All bets are off, maybe. Down to 3. Down to 1. Untap. Okay, so we generate 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think Brad's dead. The body language, I think he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, Brad is F6 out of the term, as we like to call it, for Magic Online slang. And I think he's just hoping that he gets to Ugin.
All right, here's Genesis Hydra for a bunch. So it looks like there's a mana floating, maybe?
No.
No? Okay, so he's just going to do this. 3, 4, 5. Didn't get there. I wonder if he could have gone off with infinite mana if he had Teamer Sabertooth. I don't think so, though. All right, so he's going to take an Island Blossoms and draw 3 cards.
Under normal circumstances, this would not be a shabby consolation prize, but the fact that Brad gets to get to Ugin here might mean that all this is undone, though Joey will have a lot of resources to play with on the way back.
That's true. There will be some counterplay. I mean, he's drawing 3 cards, too. It's not bad. And he used to draw a card because of Teamer Ascendancy and Genesis Hydra being big.
Oh, sure.
Yep. And now it's going to come into the red zone along with everything else. I like what Joey's doing. Brad going to draw. He does have his Ugin at the ready. 2 of those in his main deck this weekend.
But you can't even feel that confident if you're Brad here. Your opponent has a grip full of cards still. You're going to lose all of your mana creatures here if you're dealing with the board at all.
You're going to lose most. He's going to lose all his stuff, too, because he's going to have to do it for more than 4. So he's got to lose his Frontier Siege, too. Now, Joey's entire board is gone, but as you mentioned, he does have like a ton of cards in his hand.
Yeah, he's got a lot to work with.
So Brad is going to stand tall with an Ugin here. Looks like Joey forgot to discard, but that problem is solved. Page will draw, and we'll see if he can get, if he can get Ugin off the table. The game is probably over. There's a Forest. All right, there's Genesis Hydra. It's for 5. I think Teamer Ascendancy might be the best find here. Didn't find one of those. Find a Karametra's Acolyte. Just going to pass the turn back to Nelson. Not a bad way to reload.
But I don't think he can protect his Ugin at this point.
I don't think so either. It's weird, man. Ugin's plus ability is good, obviously, but I don't think it's as good as I thought it would be.
Well, it's definitely something where, you know, a percentage of decks are going to be able to operate around it pretty easily. And Joey Page's deck here is just flush with 4 and 5 times his creatures.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that it hasn't been as impressive. Like, even when we watched Brian play earlier, it just wasn't that great. I'm not saying it should be able to kill a Siege Rhino or anything, but it has not been the dominant ability that I expected it to be. There's a Teamer Ascendancy. Here is a Teamer Sabertooth. Trigger, draw a card. Now that text on that card might seem rather innocuous, but it does come up quite a bit in this particular deck.
This is a really weird design. This card's just a pretty weird design.
Are we bringing out Game Designer Patrick for the first time? What is going on with this card?
I don't quite know what the flavor is.
It's a Sabertooth protecting the person in the picture.
But the Sabertooth gains indestructible.
Not quite sure why that's the case, but because it's so not, it's the present for protecting someone.
And the flavor text does not really illuminate anything.
The team receive themselves as a pack. Their bonds more primal than the Absons. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. But we're casting a lot of spells. Yep. And those creatures are going to have haste, mind you.
Just go beat downs.
Yep. Sometimes that's all you need to do. And Brad has a smile on his face, and it's kind of hard not to. Joey Page going to win game number 1 here over Brad Nelson. Teamer Ascendancy combo up a game over Green-Black Constellation.
And I don't know if this deck was written about somewhere or something like that. How do you have this week 1?
Apparently MTG Salvation.
Okay, fair enough.
The friendly people over there.
There's got to be people out there that are just, you know, they already have Katamara's Acolyte plus Teamer Ascendancy lined up. They're just like, they know that it's just a piece away. And I guess hypothetically, Singing Bellstrike has always existed. Some skeleton of this has always been available since Cons has been printed, because that gives you infinite mana. in certain circumstances, but that's a lot of work.
Someone's got like those 3 cards on a whiteboard, and they're just like, no, if they print a 4-power creature that says pick up another creature that provides double green devotion, boom.
Exactly. I'm imagining the person who has the whiteboard, as you mentioned, and Teamer Sabertooth is spoiled, and they're like, R&D screwed up!
Yeah.
Got him! This was the last piece!
Yep. My deck is ready. It is finally done. We're going to take a look at the sideboards here. 2 Garrux for Brad, along with an Ugin, 2 Heroes Downfalls, 3 Bile Blights, 3 Nissa World Wakers, 3 Rhythmones, and a Thoughtseize. The removal all seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think that he just needs to be able to kill stuff. Thoughtseize is pretty good against a deck that really needs to get Ascendancy into play. I bet Brad wish he had more ways to interact with enchantments, because Teamer Ascendancy, even if Joey isn't going off, just sort of drawing cards and gaining some amount of resistance against removal is good for him. And Brad just doesn't have a lot of ways to get off the table.
Now, Brad's sideboard is actually not boring, but I imagine Joey's a little bit more fun.
No, actually, he is. All the normal cards are in the sideboard. 3 Nylea's Disciple, 3 Nissa World Waker, 3 copies of Cure the Crashing Wave, 2 copies of Reclamation Sage, 2 copies of Setessan Tactics, and 2 copies of Hunt the Hunter. So the fight effects are really good here for Joey, just trying to keep Brad's mana pinned. And I think the Reclamation Sages are good here as well.
I want to talk about a card that's fallen off the map. Setessan Tactics?
Yeah, the Jurassic Tactics used to be a real big deal back when it was a lot of green decks, Devotion decks squaring off against mono blue especially, and now it's just barely a thing.
Until you said that, I forgot that card existed. We haven't seen it in that long. But it is in Joey Page's sideboard, though I'll be surprised if we see it in this matchup. Both these players are going to get ready for game number 2, and while we do wait, it is SCG live chat time. The feature match area, is available. You can subscribe today.
Yep, the Twitch chat is back, and I'm sure some of you listening are participating in right now. If you sign up for free, you can post once every 2 minutes in slow mode chat. But if you subscribe for only $4.99 a month, you have access to unlimited posting and custom badges and emoticons.
A couple of them available there. Myself, Matthias, Patrick, our Jetpack Penguin, our Slow Play Turtle, and if you guys have any sweet ideas, we'll have more emoticons on the way. We're always taking ideas for fun ones. Maybe one that involves Teamer Sabertooth.
Yeah.
Which would just be a question mark.
Right. What's going on with that? I mean, whatever. It's a random design. Not every random design is bad. It's just don't quite know the story that's being told.
Yeah. Though it is a sweet card.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Though I don't really understand what's going on with it, I think it's a sweet card. That's for sure. Ugin wasn't even able to save Brad there. Ugin's probably his best card in the matchup.
Yeah.
That's a little scary if that can't get the job done.
It wasn't even close. I
No.
mean, after Joey drew a million cards, Brad was even lucky to get to cast the Ugin, because I think it's very likely Joey kills him the turn that he had set up.
Yeah.
But even still, it didn't really matter.
So in a combo deck like this, I think it's really important that your cards are actually good on their own.
Yep.
Instead of what we saw with like the Jeskai Ascendancy deck, where Retraction Helix is okay, Twin Flame's pretty bad, Springleaf Drum is pretty bad,
Right.
for the most part. But all these cards seem like they're okay on their own.
Yeah, what are the really dodgy ones? To me, it's basically just Singing Bellstrike and Kanemaru's Acolyte. And Singing Bellstrike's not even a horrible card. And early on in the game, you're playing against Abzan aggro. I'm sure it's just fine to draw one of those.
That's a removal spell for the first X turns of the game.
Right.
I've seen worse.
And other than that, Teamer Ascendancy without some of the combo pieces is not very effective, but the deck does not have very much in the way of dead weight.
Well, Brad, you're on the play, although Joey's going to send his hand back pretty quickly. Now, that's the big question, I think, about this deck. How much does it do that?
Well, again, I think the colored mana situation in the deck is okay, could be better. But in terms of just drawing up dead weight, there's not a ton. There was the Nylea, the one copy of Nylea in the deck, which I'm pretty sure is just there to ensure that you have a kill the turn that you Genesis Hydro, because no amount of blocking gets your opponent out of a million Nylea pumps plus all your team having trample.
Yeah, I guess at that point you have infinite mana.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
I still question whether or not it's strictly necessary, because you get to put all of your creatures... I guess you don't get to put all of your creatures into play when you Genesis Hydro. You just get the one thing. So I guess you need a Nylea to ensure that if your opponent has, 9 Elspeth tokens in play or something, you have a kill that turn.
Extensive testing has shown that you need the Nylea to get through.
It probably came up once.
Yeah.
And also, whatever, you have Nylea in a Devotion deck.
It's still fine.
Probably still fine.
There will be probably games where you draw that and then just do your thing.
Yeah.
And just play a normal game. Here's a carry added. Nelson with land number 3. Is it time for a Courser? It is. Top card is an Elvish Mystic. Pass the turn back over to Paige. Paige will draw.
And if you asked Brad before this tournament, do you anticipate getting outpowered? I think he would have told you no. But Joey is definitely outpowering him in the matchup. And that's the scary thing if you're Brad. It's not like Brad's deck can really go beatdowns. He doesn't have this option of speeding up. He's just assuming that he's going to be able to overpower his opponent, and he can bring in Garrick if he thinks it's appropriate, and all that kind of stuff. But that might just not work in this matchup.
There's Eidolon Blossom. It's a pretty good mulligan here for Paige. Look at the draw card off the Eidolon. And those have to pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson's draw, of course, is an Elvish Mystic, so we'll take a look at the top card. It's a Forest. That's coming to play very quickly as Nelson gains a life. Top card now is an Elvish Mystic. Is it time for a Frontier Siege? I suppose we'll find out here in a moment. Looks like Brad's going to go to the red zone courser. Well, maybe not. Yep, there it comes. Maybe thought about holding it back there briefly. But the follow-up here will be Frontier Siege. He will name cons on that, always a mana accelerator, or at least most cases in this deck. This Paige will draw.
Remember, 2 copies of Reclamation Sage here in the list on Joey's side.
Does this feel like what happened when we were watching Ivan Gen?
I mean, it's definitely nothing I would have anticipated before the tournament. And I think that this is not a gimmick. I mean, Brad's legitimately struggling to interact with this, even with 7 and 8 mana spells in this deck.
Now, I remember watching Ivan when we were in Oakland. It was just like, okay, something's happening here that shouldn't be happening.
Brad knows he could very well die next turn.
Yeah.
If he can't interact with Joey's board.
Yeah, with Jen it was if he got to untap with Jeskai Ascendancy. With Joey it might be if he gets to untap with Teamer Ascendancy. Gonna draw a card here with the Eidolon. Frontier Siege, of course, providing the mana. There's a Temple. A little scry action here and a little life gain as well. Take a look at the top card, Hero's Downfall. That's not a shabby one.
Well, none of this is a promise of anything, you know? I think Brad would like to cast Ugin next turn and hope that Hero's Downfall plus the Ugin can deal with the leftovers. I don't know if he has a better line of play than that.
Scary territory that Brad's walking on right now. Given what he saw in the last game, he has to know that, okay, Ascendancy is a horrifying card if you get to untap with it. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, though.
Joey didn't go off last game. He didn't go infinite, but the Ascendancy was still more than enough harm done.
It looks like he's going to keep Hero's Downfall on top, which does make sense. It does play a pretty nice role here. Here's an attack for 2. And looks like just a passing of the turn, perhaps? Or maybe he's going to use the Siege again. We'll see. It's a little unclear. And I was reaching for some mana. I haven't seen Brad Stroker make a decision like this in a while.
Nope. Well, keep in mind he's working with a lot of uncertainty here as well.
The thing is that Joey, like the 2 cards that are in play that are represented, Nykthos and Teamer Ascendancy, that could be anything.
Yes. And it's net mana next turn.
All right. Paige will draw rather quickly. Oh boy. Second Nykthos. Genesis Hydra for 4. The Acolyte is among the cards, and it has haste. He also gets to draw a card from Teamer Ascendancy because Genesis Hydra came into play. Now the Acolyte is going to have haste, so it's going to tap for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana.
So if he's got the Cougar, it's infinite mana period, and he draws his whole deck. If it's just the Singing Bellstrike, it's infinite green, and then you have to see if he has anything to do from there.
Okay. So some green mana here. Does the count. Genesis Hydra again. This one's for 5. 3, 4, 5. There's the Sabertooth, and he's going to take that. The question is, does he have enough mana to do what he wants to do here? I think he might be out.
No, he still has his Caryatid and his Bivouac up.
Okay.
So he can get the...
And he gets to draw 2 cards here, one for the Sabertooth coming into play and one for the Hydra coming into play.
Because I guess he still needs some access to a way to untap another mana creature.
Yeah. Well, just beat down instead.
Yeah, just beat down a clock.
He's going to slow down a touch. But beatdowns aren't so bad.
And even if Brad has a sweeper next turn, Joey can at least return one of his combo pieces back to his hand.
The fact that he can reuse Genesis Hydra is kind of absurd, actually. And the Genesis Hydra is going to have haste.
This deck is surprisingly robust.
Yeah.
I mean, Brad's bringing a really fast Ugin to the table both games, and it's just not amounting to much.
Yeah. Yeah, how much does Ugin amount to this game? Hero's Downfall's the draw. Take a look at the top card. It's another copy of Hero's Downfall. Those are quite good. There's a land. That's an Ugin. The interesting thing about what we're watching, too, is that if Brad doesn't draw Ugin...
Oh, he's run completely over.
He can't... I don't think he'd win. Gonna go to second main, it looks like. Tick it on down. Doing it this way so that he gets the double green mana from the Frontier Siege.
Yeah, he can move into second main, then Ugin, and then his mana's still there.
Yeah. Sabertooth. Gonna activate its ability, which means it gets to return something. It becomes indestructible. Ugin doesn't care about that.
Right, but it's still an opportunity to get back either an Eidolon or a Genesis Hydra, whatever he's in the market for.
All right, Genesis Hydra's coming back. The rest of it's exiled. There's Courser. Courser really important there, I think, to be able to defend the Ugin.
Yeah.
Page gonna redeploy something here. Looks a little unsure of what it's gonna be.
Well, he's got to beat multiple downfalls and the Ugin still in play. It's a tough mixture. You know, he can't really measure his threats against the spot removal. He can't really deploy everything in the face of Ugin.
I'm just gonna go with a Voyaging Satyr and a Caryatid. Forest gonna come into play off of the Courser. Top card to downfall, so now he's gonna work his way through quite a few of those. Ugin gonna take care of the Satyr. Now it's time to attack. No interest in blocking, so 2 damage will come across.
And that's just a great attack from Brad there. You know, Joey has to respect the possibility of Doomweight Giant, so even if Brad doesn't have it, he's not going to block a good percentage of the time.
Hey, you know, Joey doesn't know exactly what's in Brad's deck and vice versa.
Yep.
Like, there's a chance that Doomweight Giant isn't even in the deck after sideboard.
Yeah, but you've seen Black Mana and you've seen Eidolon of Blossoms. I mean, it has that look to it.
There's a Courser. Top card. You have My Coast. Trigger, a little bit of life. Top card. Manic Influence. There's Hero's Downfall. Get that out of the way. Nelson gonna draw Hero's Downfall. Hornet Queen on top. And unlike the previous game, Joey having a little bit more difficulty rebuilding this one.
Yeah. I mean, he's just drawn a lot of lands.
Yeah.
And Brad actually has a board after the fact, too. I mean, those are all factors. Plus multiple pieces of spot removal on Brad's side of the table.
We could see Ugin actually minus for a large amount again this game. There's a mountain. There's Genesis Hydra. It'll be for 6, we believe. Looks like he might leave a little bit of mana open. So for 5. So take a look at the top 5. Sinking Bellstrike among the options here.
Sweet.
We're gonna go with the Acolytes.
This is just cool as crap.
Well, at the very,
Sweet week 1 deck.
I think we get to see another game of it.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that.
Most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, if Joey comes back, then...
That'd be impressive in itself.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
We win either way. We either get another game of this or Joey puts on a really impressive performance in coming back from this one.
Genesis Hydra, another card that kind of just lost in the shuffle.
Yep. I mean, the green devotion strategies, the pure green devotion strategies, they aren't as prevalent as they once were for a variety of reasons, but Genesis Hydra makes this whole thing feasible. I mean, there's no way you could build a deck like this without that card. Even though it's not technically a combo piece, I don't think you could build it otherwise.
Acolyte's dead, thanks to Hero's Downfall. Sylvan Carry added on top of Nelson's deck. Ugin. Ticking down, clearing up some stuff. Brad gonna rebuild here with perhaps Hornet Queen. Yes, he will. Some insects will join the party as Nelson comes to the red zone here for 2. Looking to close this game out. And Joey's going to show a couple of lands here and can see the game. So Brad also going to win game number 2 here over Joey Page. Green-Black Constellation going to tie things up against Teamer Ascendancy combo, which means that we're going to get a 3rd game, but only once Brad is ready.
Yeah, and this is going to be, again, I think this is just a tough matchup here for Brad because he has so few ways of interacting. It's just a fast Ugin, which we saw in game 1 wasn't even good enough, though game 2, Ugin, Joey couldn't get past it.
Yeah, you think about how that game would have went if no Ugin would have shown up. Joey would have been nutso the next turn.
Yeah, there's no way Brad's getting out of that one. So there's a lot of pressure on Brad to be able to get to a fast Ugin, and if Joey is going to things like Hunt the Hunters, to test and tactics, Reclamation Sage, to fight the Frontier Siege, he may be able to pin Brad on mana. And if Brad's not accelerating, he's not getting to Ugin that fast.
Do you think it's okay to go to those cards in this instance where you're risking the chance of diluting your deck? Or do you just want to, or you can not sideboard that stuff and just try to be as streamlined as possible as we saw in game 1 and partially during game 2? Or is it okay to sideboard in some number of those cards just to be able to kind of react with your opponent?
I think in those kind of spots, it really depends on what is my opponent building towards. If your opponent's just mana accelerating into normal creatures, they have SCGDCs or Kioras that they're trying to play to, you can safely ignore their mana creatures because who cares? I think in this matchup, because Brad has something meaningful to get to, which is Ugin, you got to concern yourself a little bit. Your point's well taken. I don't know how much you can dilute the deck. This deck does look pretty tight on space.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that stuff you can bring in. But if it's in the sideboard, I would have to imagine you're bringing it in for matchups where your opponent has mana creatures and they matter. They're ramping to something of substance.
Okay. I mean, Brad's biggest card, as we've seen over at least the course of these two games, is Ugin.
Yeah.
You know, Garrick seems okay.
I don't even know if it's... I don't think Brad can tap out for that sort of thing. Certainly if Ascendancy's in play, that seems like a non-starter.
Okay.
Because it looks like Joseph's deck is so capable of killing not only through the combo once Ascendancy's in play, but just casting stuff and attacking. I mean, we actually haven't seen him go infinite yet in either game. He's been able to get Ascendancy in play and just start drawing cards and attacking. And I think because that in and of itself is a threat, Garrick's not very good in this matchup. Probably, maybe still worth bringing in because if his other defensive tools are working, it's something that can further remove certain creatures and help him get to Ugin or just win the game on its own, but it's not an ace here.
Okay. Hero's Downfall, Bioblights, they're all fine. But
Fine.
I don't think they're anything crazy. They're necessary.
Yeah.
I would say that, but I think Ugin is the big one, and he's got to draw one, or he's in a whole lot of trouble. So we'll see if Brad Nelson can do that yet again and have an early Ugin, or if Joey Page gets to do his thing like he got to for, most of game one.
I would say so. It was an impressive debut for this deck, I'll tell you that much.
Temur Ascendancy in this deck, it has a lot of applications. The fact that you can Genesis Hydra into it, and then the Genesis Hydra that first Temur Ascendancy comes into play, and then Genesis Hydra comes into play, and it's simply going to be for 4 more, so you get to draw a card, then it has haste. That's awesome. Triggers Eidolon of Blossoms. That's awesome. And then it's just generally good in the deck.
That's the thing to take away from this. It's the thing that's impressed me the most about Joey's deck is Temur Ascendancy on the surface just looks like this necessary evil to make the combo work.
Yeah.
When in reality, when Joey's had Temur Ascendancy in play, I've been like, it's really sweet. He has Temur Ascendancy in play,
good.
Even if he's not winning the game next turn. He gets to attack for a bunch. He gets to keep gassing up. It's allowed him to weather the storm of Brad's sweepers. Without it, the minute that Brad got to Ugin, the game would be over. But Ascendancy's let him keep up.
It's been really, really good. Just the fact that he gets to draw cards.
Yeah.
That's the big one, I
Every
think.
part of it is good.
Every time I see it in play, it's always something I forget. Oh, it also counts for devotion to green? Sure. Why not?
What's not to like? counts for devotion for green, sort of.
What's the best brewing you've ever done? Like, when you see decks that you just, like this is a deck I could never think of.
Right.
This Temur Ascendancy, my brain just doesn't even work this way. Like, or are you more of a tuner? Have you done any decks from, like, the ground up where it's like, no one's thought of this, so I'm going to do this? Have you ever done anything like that?
I think that the closest thing, a couple of friends of mine, mostly Adam Horvath, worked on an old extended deck back then called Junk, now it would be called like Obzon Beatdown style, just disruption and good creature deck, where we sideboarded into Oath of Druids and cut all the marginal creatures.
Okay.
So our deck just became Oath of Druids into Call of the Herd and Mystic Enforcer, which you had to believe me back in the day was good enough to beat people. That wouldn't fly now. Even creature decks would be able to beat that stuff.
Well, I'll stop you right there. The Mystic Enforcer always has Threshold.
That's part of the combo.
Ding a ding ding.
Well, it usually has. It's actually not. It's not a guarantee. Maybe at least the first one. The second one will probably have it.
Okay.
But that was the most. That was the deck I played the most, where I had a transformational sideboard where after the match my opponent said, I have no hope of beating this.
Sure. Was there what was that good against? Was there some deck in particular where you did that and they just couldn't win?
The Mystic, the Brian Kibler, Ben Rubin Miracle Grow style deck.
Okay.
They, beating Swords to Plowshares, other creature removal spells, and that package was really
Their
hard.
Super Grow deck?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, that makes sense. That's pretty deep. You can see it's not Temur Ascendancy Savage, or Temur Sabertooth deep, but a few things are.
But we gave the deck to our buddy once for PTQ, and I walked over, and he had Oath of Druids in play, and just a bunch of River Bows and Spectral Lynxes. So I guess we didn't tell him to board him out.
You didn't finish telling him what to do?
We thought it was pretty clear. He's just like, these Oath of Druids suck. See him 2-1s.
A Silver Carry added here for Joey. A little Mana Acceleration here for Brad, and there is a Thoughtseize. So we'll take a look at Joey Page's hand. Brad going to get a closer look. A couple Voyaging Satyrs over there. Temur Sabertooth, a Kiora. Looks like that's going to bite the dust.
This hand's a bit of a bummer for Brad because there's no sweet card to take. You know, Kiora is, because this game's going to be going on for a long time, Kiora is probably the card to take, but it's not that awesome. You know, there's no integral piece of the plan here unless Brad's willing to take the Sabertooth, which seems a bit soon.
Oh, baby.
Oh.
The Acolyte.
Doesn't have haste yet.
Nope.
We're not all the way there.
Give it time. Brad draws a copy of Hero's Downfall. A lot of black cards in Brad's hand right now, which is important, as those black cards are all pretty important. There's card drawing, there's removal.
Yeah. This is going to be the real test for Brad. There's no path to a fast Ugin. He's just going to try to hold down the fort with creature removal, and that's going to be tough to do.
That situation there where Brad has to take care of the Acolyte. Probably something he doesn't want a Hero's Downfall, but something it's probably better off if I do.
Right.
Couple of mana accelerants there in Voyaging Satyrs, and just a passing of the turn. Nelson quickly tapping mana. Going to play, I think, a Bile Blight. Yes. I'll clear those up. There's a carry added. Pass the turn back. Page 1, tap and draw. Play a Bivouac. Don't think he's willing to play Temur Sabertooth without 6 mana available.
No reason to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no... Well, I guess the reason to is Thoughtseize. You don't want to get your last card Thoughtseized away, but I think the Sabertooth is too important to the plan here to just run it out into the face of more removal.
It's a Read the Bones. Nelson, a little scry, lose a little life, and they get some cards. Joey going to play his Nykthos, get Temur Sabertooth out there, and pass the turn back.
And now now this is safe, I guess.
Safe-ish, right?
Yeah, sure. It allows Brad to chain together 2 removal spells to take care of it.
And if Brad's casting Murderous Cut there, then you have to imagine he's got another removal spell.
Right.
And he does. Hero's Downfall is going to take care of that. Follow-up is Nylon Blossoms. Now he's the one that's firing on all cylinders this game.
Yeah, and Joey's pretty far away from doing anything. And this is a kind of an issue with this deck versus other combo decks. He doesn't get to access Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, that's for sure. Nissa, got to make a 4/4, just pass the turn back.
This is a real play here. Again, if Brad doesn't get to any of his big stuff. And you look at his hand right now, and it's not a lot going on.
He's already used some Hero's Downfalls.
Yep. No Ugin, no Hornet Queen. I mean, this Nissa might just overpower everything Brad brings to the table.
There is Courser. Take a look at the top card, Thoughtseize. Of course, he gets to draw that thanks to Eidolon. 4 is going to come into play thanks to Courser. Swamps on top of the deck. These green decks, they can generate quite a bit of velocity. But yeah, this is the one game where Brad doesn't have the big payoff card.
Yeah, he has not found it yet, and it's not coming next turn.
Yeah.
And you can see 2 Hornet Queens have been sideboarded out.
I think he's taking a look at his sideboard to figure out, okay, what am I going to name a Frontier Siege? I think that's why he checked that out, because, man, well, that's not an issue. So I guess the question is the other part of Frontier Siege, the Dragon's part, is that part better? There is the Siege.
Exciting. Our first time naming dragons.
All right, all right.
For being 7 rounds in, we've had a lot of sweet, weird things come up that I didn't think was going to happen this early on.
Got to agree. Red zone here with Nissa. Both those 4/4 lands are coming on in. Let's say a little double block action. Brad hoping it's safe. He's got to be a little worried.
It's a very aggressive attack.
Yeah.
He's saying, I'm putting my Nissa at risk on the way back, which means he probably drew something good.
But you're not quite sure what. That's the problem.
And again, to put it mildly, Brad does not quite know what is in Joey's deck.
Looks like Nelson's just going to take the damage. There's 2 copies of Sylvan Caryatid and just passing of the turn to defend Nissa. Brad gonna draw a Caryatid of his own. Take a look at the top card. Read the bones. Not great right now.
I mean, Brad can do some blocking here for a little while, but his hand, again, absent of power.
Yeah, for how long? That's the question. And what's interesting about this, too, is he's got Thoughtseize that's basically dead. He's going to gain a life here, go up to 6. He's got to read the bones. Not sure if he can afford to really do that. Going to play 2 more copies of Caryatid. But he's going to have 3 4/4s maybe coming his way this turn. Fatal draw, Forest. Yeah, load it up.
And Joey's got to stay aggressive here. You know, Brad's still got some huge draws. It's not like Joey's going to be able to squeeze out the last couple points of damage if something goes wrong.
I like the turn where Joey didn't attack. And I like the turn where he has attacked.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten all of those right given what's happened in the game. And we can't forget that these lands do trample. So it looks like some damage is going to get dealt here. Brad going to move some things around.
And keep in mind, Brad losing some mana, we talked about how much mana he has. If his draw step next turn is Read the Bones, losing some mana is not trivial, depending on what sequence of cards comes together.
So there's your exchange. Nelson going to lose some stuff. A little bit of damage going to be dealt. There's a Forest. Kick it back. Brad will draw. Read the bones. Courser's no longer in play, so we don't get to see the top card. Neither does he.
You see the mana is significant. He's down to 7 now. Or 5, rather. Excuse me. The siege is set to dragons.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing. No, I was thinking the same thing. I was actually thinking both would happen, which he could find a Horned Queen and then do that, but that's not a thing that can happen. So 2 cards coming. Ugin among them, but I don't know if he's going to get another turn.
Yeah, the problem is it seems very likely to be able to block here. He's going to have to commit his mana creatures.
Temple, top card, becomes the bottom card. Also keep in mind, Ugin, with Nissa, they actually work well together. Ugin can't kill those lands. Because they're colorless.
Oh.
So Ugin in most cases a pretty good draw. Don't think that's the case here, as Joey's going to tick up Nissa again, make his Bivouac a 4/4 Trampler, and crash on in, and that is going to do it. Joey Page is going to win this match here over Brad Nelson, 2-1. Teamer Ascendancy combo is 6-1 here in DC.
And that was a really impressive third game there from Joey, because the